All right, let's get right into today's explainer. If you're a product manager or you're gearing up to become one, you already know the deal. This job, it rarely comes with a perfectly paved, brightly lit road. Honestly, stepping into a product role usually feels like hopping into a car and immediately driving straight into a thick, zero visibility fog of ambiguity. You've got competing stakeholder demands, totally conflicting data, and those famously terrifying blank page interview prompts that are literally designed to induce panic. But hey, today we're going to clear that fog. We're going to break down the exact frameworks top-tier product leaders use to navigate this ambiguity, mapping out our literal road trip to product success. Okay, let's dive into this. Former Google PM Alex Rechevsky really hit the nail on the head with this quote: "You're driving the bus here." When you're handed an ambiguous problem or some vague feature request, nobody is going to step in and hit the gas pedal for you. The absolute worst thing you can do, especially if you're sitting in a PM interview, is look around the room for someone else to make the directional choices. You are not a passive passenger on this trip. You're the person firmly behind the wheel. So we call this the bus driver mentality. Basically, it means taking absolute ownership over the whole journey. It's about shifting gears from just managing a project timeline to stepping up and making active, calculated choices. PMs are cross-functional leaders, often without a single direct report. That means your authority doesn't come from some rigid corporate hierarchy. Instead, it comes from your ability to assertively chart a logical course through all that product ambiguity and clearly explain your decision-making to the rest of the team. So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. The product management reality. 2. Driving through ambiguity. 3. NPS as your compass. 4. Steering the strategic roadmap. And 5. Fostering a growth mindset. Let's get moving. First stop, Section 1, the product management reality. Look, a PM never ever builds a product alone. A typical product squad is packed with specialists. You've got engineers writing the code, designers crafting the look and feel, marketing prepping the launch, and QA testers out there hunting for bugs. And you're sitting right smack in the center. You are literally the glue holding this highly diverse group together. Your main job is keeping those lines of communication wide open and making sure every single one of these specialists is marching toward the exact same vision. But here's the million-dollar question. How do you get them marching together when the destination isn't even clear yet? Which brings us to Section 2, driving through ambiguity. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between a failing candidate and a successful product leader. Look at the passenger PM. They finish a segmentation review and just weakly ask, "So, what do you think about that?" They're just sitting there waiting for direction. But a driver PM, they completely own the moment. They state their logic, they disambiguate the hidden assumptions, and they make assertive choices. They'll say, based on this data, I'm selecting segment X. You've absolutely got to demonstrate leadership by driving the conversation forward yourself. So if you get an ambiguous prompt, something like design an onboarding experience for a new Spotify user, you can't just magically jump to the final solution. It's kind of like your old middle school math homework, right? You have to show your work. This right here is your mental roadmap. First, clarify the goal. Are we talking about a free user or a paid user? Next, define those specific users. Then prioritize their specific pain points. And finally, propose your solutions based on that solid structure. Keep showing your team or your interviewer exactly where you are on this map and what step is coming next. Let's shift gears to Section 3, NPS as your compass. Before we go any further, I want to do a quick temperature check. I want you to reflect on this for a second. When the fog is super thick and multiple stakeholders are pulling you in totally different directions, how do you actually know you're steering the product the right way? What's your source of truth? Well, your ultimate source of truth is your Net Promoter Score, or NPS. Leading organizations rely incredibly heavily on this data. In fact, if we look at the requirements for the Senior UX Product Manager role at Semtech, which is a massive global IoT leader, the PM is expected to hold total decision-making authority over the end-to-end NPS strategy. They aren't just glancing at a single high-level number. They are rigorously breaking it down into promoters, passives, and detractors to actually drive their overarching UX vision. So the crucial point is this. You shouldn't just be high-fiving your team over your promoters. Actually, detractor patterns and passive feedback are your absolute best primary signals for optimization. As a PM, you use these negative and neutral sentiments as a compass. They point you exactly to where you need to focus your usability testing. These metrics tell you precisely where the friction lives so you can eliminate it and accelerate the time to value for your users. It's a real game changer.
Moving right along to Section 4, steering the strategic roadmap. Let's look at how this mentality builds perfectly on some of the most recognized frameworks in the tech industry, specifically the Amazon leadership principles. To steer a strategic roadmap, you need ownership to act on behalf of the whole company, not just your specific silo. You've got to dive deep into the details, constantly auditing that data. And crucially, great leaders are right a lot. Not because they have a crystal ball, but because they actively seek out diverse perspectives and work tirelessly to disconfirm their own beliefs before locking in a plan.
You see, a product roadmap isn't just a random wish list of features. It's a strategic journey across time. A great PM owns this go-forward strategy across the entire customer lifecycle. You aren't just building to get someone through the door in month 1 for customer acquisition. You're prioritizing initiatives that drive real engagement in month 3 and seamless solution orchestration in month 6. You are constantly planning ahead to reduce user drop-off at every single chronological stage. But hey, at the end of the day, a roadmap is only as good as the outcomes it produces, right? Here we have a breakdown of your core dashboard metrics. Whether you're tracking activation to ensure frictionless entry or closely monitoring retention to prove ongoing value and lifetime revenue, every single stop on your strategic roadmap has to tie directly back to measurable business impact. Data-driven decision-making means backing up every single roadmap initiative with these hard numbers. And finally, we arrive at Section 5, fostering a growth mindset. Think about this. When someone challenges your roadmap, how do you react? A defensive PM usually snaps back, "No, my thinking is better here, let's stick with my plan." Or on the flip side, they might be way too passive and just fold, saying, "Oh, sure, yes, great idea," to whatever a loud stakeholder demands. But an adaptable leader, a true driver, says, "That's an interesting thought. Let me weigh this new input against my initial assumptions." You objectively evaluate new information based on merit, not your ego. This is where a continuous temperature check process comes in to save you from just monologuing at your team. Step 1, present your logic. Step 2, stop and actually ask, "Hey, does this make sense so far?" Step 3, actively evaluate any pushback or new info you receive. And step 4, if that new data breaks your previous logic, confidently update your underlying assumptions right then and there. Adapting to new data isn't a sign of weakness, it's absolutely the ultimate proof of a growth mindset. So we've covered the reality of leading a cross-functional team, the absolute necessity of structuring your path through the fog of ambiguity, utilizing NPS as your ultimate true north, tying your roadmap to real metrics, and navigating pushback with a healthy growth mindset. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. The roadmap is in your hands, and the data is crystal clear on the dashboard. Are you ready to stop being a passenger? Take the wheel and drive. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.